Hey everyone, Simon here. Today we're going to talk about the power of Pluto. So, um, just recently, Instagram, or rather a hacker on Instagram, spoofed my account and started contacting people in my account, which I never used, so I didn't even know about it, but they told me about it, and asking them to, do some stuff. And I reported them, and what happened? Instagram banned me. And in spite of verifying my identity, they banned my account. So there is now a spoof account on Instagram that looks like me, has my pictures, but is not me. It's a hacker. So why do I bring this up? Because this is the power of Pluto. Today we're going to talk about things that happen and when it seems like forces are against you that you can't do anything about. And we're going to talk about remedies. We're going to talk about how to deal with it and how to make it work for you. So let's get started. So I've done a few videos on this channel on the outer planets. Now, what I'm going to talk about today works in traditional tropical astrology. It works for Vedic astrology. It works for any kind of astrology in which we use the grahas, the planets. And so it's not dependent upon a zodiac. It's not dependent upon a particular house system that you use. This just works, meaning if you have Pluto Sun conjunct, or in the same sign at least, or some distance to each other, from each other by conjunction, then you're going to feel the effects of Pluto and that particular effect. And if you're inclined to say, well, Simon, the ancient Vedic astrology didn't talk about the invisible grahas. Well, I addressed this in my book, Gambler's Dharma, where we discuss the adrishta, or the invisible effects of the unseen planets. And the invisible effects are all the more powerful because they're invisible, because they're difficult to identify. And so they are called adrishta. So I've talked about that in other videos. I've discussed a few planetary combos. I talked about Venus, Neptune, and so forth, and what that looks like in a chart, what that looks like when you have a combination between two people for compatibility. Today, I'm going to talk about the power of Pluto. All right. So we're going to go deep. We're going to take a deep dive. So strap in, and we'll also discuss what I think is the best antidote that was shared with me by an astrologer named Charlotte Benson, who is an OG in the astrology business. And so she knows best. And I will share that with you. In fact, I'm going to share that with you right now. So we're going to do things a little bit in reverse today and talk about the remedy before we talk about the effect itself. So the remedy for Pluto, see if we can pull this up, is don't take it personally. I know this is going to seem very simple, but the remedy is don't take it personally. There is a myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. It's a Greek myth. And in that myth, Eurydice is taken down to Hades. Hades is another name for Pluto, the underworld, right? So Pluto is the smallest planet. It's the farthest, so it's the darkest. And it is the most powerful in many ways because it is so far removed from our conscious understanding. And before I go into the rest of the myth, let me just tell you, Pluto, in Greek myth, there are three equal gods. So people think Zeus is the top. Well, it's Zeus, then there's Poseidon, and Hades. One rules the earth, one rules the oceans, and one rules the underworld. But they're all equal. And so Hades is the equal of Zeus. And they each have their realms and spheres of influence. So you could say that this is the deep subconscious, the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious, or the waking, sleeping, dreaming states. And Pluto rules those deep states that are beyond the conscious mind. So in this myth, Orpheus goes down to save his lover. Now, Orpheus is an amazing musician and artist, so he uses his musical skills to travel down into Hades and avoid all of the disasters, the dog that will eat you, the poisons, the snakes, and all the creatures, because he's playing his harp, his music, his lyre. He gets down to Hades, and he enchants even Hades and his wife. And he says, I want my wife back. Now, she's died. There's a similar myth, the myth of Savitri in the Vedic tradition, okay? But it ends differently. And so Hades says, okay, you want your wife back? Take her on one condition. The condition is, as you take her and you're leaving the underworld, it's a long journey, you never look back. Euripides says, fine. But Euripides doesn't trust him. He doesn't trust his own inner demons, his own inner stuff. Anyway, he goes, his wife follows him. He gets to the end, right at the end of the tunnel, right? And he sees light and he's like, I can't hear her. Let me see. And he looks back, and the last thing he sees is her face right there. And then she fades away. So he loses her. Now, what's the lesson here? And why do I bring this myth up? One of the lessons is with Pluto is don't pick the scab. So if you have a wound, deep inner wounds you can use therapies. Music therapy is wonderful. Art therapy is wonderful for expressing creatively those plutonian myths out and healing them. But constantly picking at that wound, going back, well, why did my mother not take me to summer camp? Why didn't my dad do this, right? You're picking that scab constantly. So one of the lessons is don't look back. It doesn't mean ignore everything that's happened to you. It means be skillful and live your life moving forward. Do your dharma. You're put in this world to do something, to actualize yourself. And if you're constantly picking at that scab, you're not allowing yourself to look forward. Number one. Number two, don't take things personally. Why? Because Pluto, in many ways, like Lord Yama in the Vedic tradition, is the Lord of karma, right? So if stuff's happening to you, if my account's getting spoofed, somebody stole $100,000 from us, an unscrupulous contractor, and we're, you do what you have to do, but you try to not take it personally. It's very hard. It's easier to say than to do, but you still have to try to do it. Now, yes, I'm actually undergoing a Pluto transit, which is why I'm making this video. So hopefully to help other people who are undergoing this stuff as well. So let's first of all look at what Pluto is all about. Now, we have a whole entire course on this stuff, and it is we will get to this, I promise you. We have an entire course on this stuff called the Power Planet Combos. This is my finest course. We brought in experts, and we did in this course, I believe you take intermediate astrologers to become professional astrologers, in the sense that you become able to identify combos like Pluto Sun, Pluto Moon, Pluto Venus, and what that wound is going to be, how that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. So in a sense, we're not looking back, but we're identifying what is there and helping you work through it and move forward through it. So it's one of my, if not the most powerful course I've ever done. There's a 20% coupon, and it's got all kinds of bonuses. We do Rahu Ketu, the nodes. We do rare combos. We did let's see, fixed stars. We talked about the fixed stars is another bonus. So it's truly my finest course, and if you want to dive deeper into this, go ahead and go to Decoding Vedic Wisdom and check it out. So let's take a look at Pluto's effects and what to do about them. So as you can see here, Pluto is considered by many, both traditional tropical astrologers and Vedic astrologers, as who use the outer planets, as the most powerful graha there is, because it is so difficult to deal with, more than Saturn, because Saturn is visible, right? So Pluto represents your dark underworld stuff. It's always about power. So in the case of Euripides, who goes back, he doesn't have the power to keep his honey with him, and he doesn't have the power over himself to keep his promise not to turn back. It's like you feel compelled. There's so much compulsion with this planet. But it always has to do with death and rebirth. So, I was telling somebody about my Instagram thing. And by the way, if you see my account on Instagram, it's not my account. This is a scammer's account. And I told him what happened, and it was her. And she said, "So what?" And I'm like, "You're right. I've been meaning to get off that platform anyway. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram anymore. And I was meaning to get off of it anyway." So Pluto in many ways will force you to do what actually needs to be done. When you got to go to the bathroom, you got to go to the bathroom. Even though you may be at a polite event, no, you got to go, right? You may not want to do it, but it forces you. So Pluto has to do with getting rid of, heavy baggage and being reborn, becoming a new person. And anything that is ignored, right? So I'm pretty sure you're seeing my screen here, but anything that's ignored long enough begins to fester, begins to grow and to break down, to grow, like mushroom, but also to break down. And it can become destructive. It can become poisonous. So Pluto makes you aware of this stuff. And of course, depending on the particular Pluto combination you have, it'll bring up those power issues in different areas of your life. So if you have Pluto Venus, you may feel powerless in relationships. Pluto Sun, you may feel powerless with respect to the government or with respect to your father or men in general. Pluto Venus, you may feel powerless with respect to women in general, because in many ways, Venus represents women. Pluto Moon, power struggles or with your mother or a domineering mother or domineering women in your life. Or in some ways, the sun represents the federal government and the moon represents the local government. So you may have struggles with local government, magistrates and mayors and so forth. Pluto Mars, that's a powerful combination, but could be a dangerous one. It has to do with combustion and power struggles with expressing your energy in the world. So Pluto talks about an imbalance of power. Who is the master? Who is a dominator? It's very all or nothing. So Pluto people can often become hypervigilant. Like, what's his agenda? What does he want? What does she want? And they're very intense. So if you have any of these combos, conjunctions, oppositions, and to a lesser degree, a square or a trine, but also squares. A square is a 410 aspect, but for a square, it has to be less than 12 degrees orb for it to actually manifest. Really, you want it even 7 degrees or less. Trine, same thing. Conjunction, same sign is fine. Now, of course, the tighter, the closer, the more intense. Opposition, same sign. So if you have any of these, and I'm sure many of you do, look at the issues that I'm going to talk about. Like I said, today's a deep dive. This is going to be a long video, or it already is. So take a look at this, and then I'll come back to some of the remedies in a second. Pluto is intense, and it craves intensity. And it has to also do with hormones. So think about, if you're a woman, whether you have your menses or you're past your menses, think about the power of that monthly cycle, the follicular cycle, the luteal cycle, all the different little phases during it, when all of a sudden you become a different person sometimes, right? If hormones are not in balance. Or men, think about it, when your hormones out of balance, whether you're having your own male menopause, or you're just a teenager with hormones, and all you can think about is sex, and all you can think about is what your hormones are making you think about, right? Because you are under their power. Hormones are Pluto in your chart. So think about how powerful and how much they affect you. Just alter the hormone balance just a little bit, and the whole personality changes. This is why we say Pluto is the most powerful planet, and it's the tiniest. But think about, a year before Pluto was discovered, I believe Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin and antibiotics. It's the power of the small to yield a massive effect, to kill diseases. Around the same time, the splitting of the atom was achieved. The power of the small to produce a massive effect in the world, right? This is Pluto. It is the most powerful planet because it is so tiny and unseen, but its effects are macro on their global. So let's talk about now, first of all, what are the effects of Pluto when combined with your different aspects of your chart, and then finally what to do about it. I've already given you a hint, right? What is it? Don't take things personally. Let's see how well we can do. So if you have Pluto with your ascendant, either conjunct or opposite or even square within an orb, there's a love-hate relationship that people will have with you. They either love you or hate you, because you're very intense, or you bring out intensity in others. So again, Pluto is all about power. Remember, the atomic bomb or splitting of the atom is the unleashing of power. Again, here, there can be physical complications later in life with women, hysterectomies, prostate problems, hormonal stuff, right? So Pluto on the ascendant, power struggles with asserting your personality in the world. Pluto Sun, there's a compulsion to express yourself. Maybe because you had a domineering or manipulative father, or someone who held you to high standards, or had a problematic problem with drug problems, whatever it is, and they took it out on you. This is a great forensic combination. Pluto Sun and Pluto Mercury are the forensic experts. You know that show CSI, where they go into I found a hair, and in that hair there's a little bit of pollen, and that pollen can only be found in this kind of area, and that's the area that our suspect is from, and so let's go check it out, right? That's Pluto, the ability to dive deep and to deal with a ton of data, forensics, that's the field of forensics, to sort out what's going on. So Pluto Sun can be that. Pluto Mercury is also that. Pluto Sun's also the mafia boss. That's what we call this combo, because there could be a good hired assassin, a hitman, hit woman. Now, maybe you're a lawyer, and that's what you do. You go after people who are, say, harming the environment. You could be a sattvic hitman, right? You can be someone who does it for good. But Pluto Sun is the person you want to turn to in an emergency situation. They know what to do. They get things done. Sometimes, unscrupulously, but they get things done. So now these are combos in your chart. If you don't have it in your chart, you may still be going through it. So what if you have Pluto by transit over your sun, conjunct your sun? Well, you're going to experience this stuff. You're going to experience a tremendous amount of power struggle during any Pluto transit. The power may be against, it will seem like it's against forces that you can't do anything about. Instagram, sorry, your account is suspended. There's nothing you can do. That was literally their email, right? This person who stole money from us, nope, I'm not giving it back. That's it. So, moving on, Pluto Moon. Pluto Moon is one of the most delicate ones. And I'm reading here from the document. Again, this document is part of our class. It goes into much greater detail. If you do want the class, check it out. Pluto Moon, easily overwhelmed. I'm not a doctor or a clinician, so this is not a diagnosis, but you often see this in OCD. Folks who have obsessive compulsive disorder, Pluto Moon can exaggerate and take things out of proportion. Hey, you like my place? Yeah, it's a little dark in here. What do you mean it's dark? Are you saying this is not a good place to live in? Get out of my house right now. No, I meant like it's just there's no light. Right? Don't take things personally with Pluto. Guys, I'm going to keep saying this over and over. This is the mantra. Don't take it personally. Thank you, Charlotte, for teaching us this. When she told me this, I was like, yeah, but what's the real remedy? She said, no, that's the remedy. Yeah, but give me like some mantras, like I can stand on my head. How many push-ups do I need to do to be able to, get this out of my system? Just don't take it personally. Okay. I'm coming to realize the wisdom of this more and more. Choose not to be offended. This is the key, guys. So this is the second. Don't take it personally. And the corollary to that is choose not to be offended. It's very hard, but it is a choice. We all make a choice. So a split second between what a person does or says and how we react, there is a split second. I mean, it's like that, in which we decide, am I going to react with anger to reinforce myself, my ego, my vision of myself? Or am I going to choose, even though I want to do that, to let it go? And you will most of the time find, mostly you will find, when you let it go, you realize they didn't even mean what you thought they meant. I just said it was kind of dark in here, but what I meant is that my eyes are still adjusting because I was wearing sunglasses before I came in. Your house is beautiful, right? So that split second before you wail on me and kick me out of your house, make the choice to not take it personally and go, oh, okay. And usually within a minute or so, the person will clarify. Or it could be a day, it could, if it's a big deal. And things will become clear and you go, oh, it wasn't about me. He was wearing glasses before he came in, and that's why things seemed dark to him. Okay? So Pluto Moon can be very needy. And that neediness often comes from the feminine side of you, whether you're a man or a woman. It comes from your feminine mother side that was reflected to you by your mother. Also looking for intensity and, of course, complications with hormones in the reproductive system. This is a given. When you have Pluto Moon, you have to take care of your hormones, particularly as you get older. And, of course, issues with power and lack of power. Let's move on to Pluto Mars. Guys, I hope this is interesting to you. I don't do these deep dive videos often, but I feel like, there's so much content on YouTube where you get these 60-second little hits. Hey, guys, did you know? Right? And it's cool, but then it's gone, right? If you can memorize this stuff, when you see it in a chart, client's chart, friend's chart, and you can remember the theme, ask them, just put it out there and go, hey, do you have this? Or, hey, this combination means this, and see what happens. Okay, I challenge you to do that. Then you become a good astrologer. Okay, you don't become a good astrologer by watching a bunch of videos from different YouTubers who were taught different things. And, half of them are probably wrong or incomplete at best. By the way, I include myself in all of this. And you do it by going deep, taking a deep dive. So I'll try to do these kind of deep dives a little more often if I can. All right, Pluto Mars, very powerful. Interested in power, recognition. It's like walking around with a gun. In fact, guns are weapons, tools are important to Pluto Mars people. It's a testosterone combo. Now, testosterone, did you know? Tell me if this statement is true or false. Women have more testosterone than estrogen in their bodies. Is it true or false? It's actually true. By volume, by amount, women as well as men obviously have a lot more testosterone. Women also have more testosterone than estrogen. It's the balance and the ratio that is important. So testosterone is vitally important for both men and women. Testosterone is what makes people who have a lot of it, or are on the upper level of the scale, want to tackle difficult problems. They're not dismayed, right? When they walk up to the bar and the door person says, "You can't get in, it's full," they don't go, "Thank you, sir. Okay, see you later." They go, "What are you talking about? I just saw my friend come in. Listen, you're gonna let me in? Here's $20. Come on." They won't take no for an answer. They're okay with pushing the envelope and doing difficult things. All right. They can move mountains as long as they have a worthy goal. And Pluto Mars people often won't believe in astrology and stuff like this because they believe in what they can accomplish. And I've told this to Pluto Mars people, and they're like, "Yeah, you're right." And I'm like, "But how did I know that?" That's a head scratcher, because I saw it in your chart, and therefore your chart, right, predicted in many ways your behavior. This is why I love doing compatibility, guys, because in many ways our charts set us up for the type of relationship we can have. But then when you meet two charts together, it's even easier to predict, in a sense, the outcome of how those two people will interact, all the baggage that they're bringing together. So I'll be doing a lot more of those coming up, but we'll talk about that in another podcast. So archetypal masculinity, again, this is a Pluto Mars, whether you're man, woman, old, young, doesn't matter, Martian, whatever. Pluto Mars combos, archetypal masculinity. They need an adversary. They need intensity. It's like they're on steroids, basically. They tend to have higher testosterone levels. The problem with that is they can get adrenal burnout. They can burn out at a certain point. So Pluto Mars is often seen in cops, often seen in criminals. Anyone who carries a gun or a badge, military, FBI, all that stuff. You have Pluto Mars. Now, when you have Pluto Mars, what does that mean? Again, conjunction, opposition, square, or even the trine, but the square and the trine have to be tight. The conjunction can be anywhere in the sign. Of course, the tighter the orb, if it's within 5 degrees, it's very strong. If it's within 25 degrees, it'll be there as a background flavor. Okay, so this is where you have to judge the relative intensity level. All right, Pluto Mercury. Here's the forensics combo that I talked about. The more info, the better. They can be OCD about finding details, crossword puzzle, this, that. Oh, you missed a dot. Right? They can separate tiny grains in a giant pile and enjoy doing it. So if you're hiring and you need somebody to go through tons of data, find the Pluto Mercury person. Give them what they want. They'll do the job. Okay? They're great investigators. They're great psychologists. But, they're very, very perceptive, but it's always on. So with Pluto, it's very hard to turn Pluto off. If you have Pluto Mercury, you're not just using it at the job and then you come home and you're just watching a movie, everything's cool. No, you're picking apart the movie. That brain is constantly working. They make it their business to find knowledge that makes them more powerful, as even occult knowledge. Okay, so Pluto Mercury, that is not a bad combo, by the way. None of these are bad combos per se. They are simply combos that require attention and respect. Like, okay, you got Pluto Mars, okay, work with it, right? You got to get that energy out somehow. That testosterone has to play out. You got Pluto Mercury, put your mind to use. An unemployed Pluto Mercury person who has nothing to do can be a menace because they need something. Go do Sudoku, go do crosswords, right? Or better yet, find a career or profession where that skill set is useful. All right, Pluto Jupiter. Now here we come back to the myth. Jupiter is Zeus, Pluto is Hades. So they're brothers and are equally powerful in their own realm. This is Pluto Jupiter can make big people, billionaires, that kind of thing. Jupiter makes it easier to access the depths that Pluto has to offer, right? It's the brother. Zeus can, hey, yo, Hades, I want to come for a visit. I want to bring my girlfriend. Don't tell my wife. I'm bringing my girlfriend, right? That's Zeus. So he has access to him. So this means you have access to the depths and you can bring it out more easily. It can mean anything from deep inner wisdom. This can be a very positive combo. Deep wealth. But it can often result from a major disaster in your life where you have everything and you lose it all. Have everything, lose it all. So remember, don't envy anyone. You see somebody and they're like Pluto, Jupiter, billionaire. In a year or a year ago, they may be the one sweeping that yacht instead of, living in it. Then Pluto Venus. Now I've talked about Pluto Venus a bit in the relationship classes. Everything has to be a 10. There's a tremendous amount of eroticism. Now, Pluto Venus in relationships, if my Pluto touches your Venus, your Pluto touches my Venus, it's one of the best, quote unquote, best, right? If you can handle the energy, combos for sexual chemistry. We have a whole protocol on sexual chemistry in our courses, but one of the biggies is having a Pluto-Venus conjunction. Okay, even a trine if it's tight, and opposition as well. You know how some people are in love with love? That's Neptune-Venus. Pluto-Venus is in love with lust. So the problem with that is we live in a society that is over-lusted. And pornography is very easy to get to. 8-year-old kids can access it. It's on their phone. It's on your computer. And the problem with that is you get unrealistic expectations of what real men, real women are, and what real sensuality and lovemaking is. Because you never experience it in real life. You experience it in your fantasy. So Pluto-Venus loves intensity. It's drawn to it. It's very lusty. But the problem is it needs to find an expression when those things are not appropriate. Like say when it's, 5:45 p.m., you're getting off work, you have to pick up the kids, then you gotta, cook dinner, and there's no time for that. No time for Pluto-Venus, right? But Pluto-Venus is thinking about it all the time. So it has to find a way to integrate into real daily life. Pluto-Venus can be good with money, but again, it's an all or nothing. Pluto-Venus is like Pluto-Jupiter. You go through periods where you have nothing, and then you have it all. You have no relationship happiness, and then you have like the best partner. It's that black and white, unfortunately, sometimes with Pluto-Venus. Then Pluto-Saturn. This is a very hard to relax kind of person. It can be harsh, obsessive, compulsive about achieving their goals. It's a workaholics combo. They're driven to avoid fear, guilt, and a sense of lack is very powerful in them. Even generationally, this is like my grandparents starve to death. So I will never starve to death. This kind of thing. Constantly driven to achieve, and but they can make good leaders over time. All right. So yeah, so if you are someone who has this combo, or you're with a person or a client who has these combos, understand that these are part of them, and often they can be unseen, right? They are so, it's such an intrinsic part of who they are, like Venus, Pluto, sexuality is intrinsic to them. Venus, Sun, power and intensity is intrinsic to them, that they may not even know it. They may not notice it. So, again, bringing up the point, don't take anything personally, and try not to be offended, both by the Pluto person and by circumstances in your life. All right. Now, let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of the ways to deal with this energy. And by the way, these energies will come out in your natal chart, but they can also come out based on where you're living. So I've talked about this in a previous video. Please check that out on Outer Planet Secrets, where if you live on a Pluto line, for example, you're going to invite those types of energies. So if you live on that kind of line. In that class, I talked about, so this is in my chart, this line here, the purple one, is my Neptune line. And in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I met all my gurus and teachers, from Dr. Vassan Lad to Hart Defoe, and then his teacher and so forth. These lines can affect you even if they're not in, even if you don't have a particular combo, or you're not running a period, or it's not transiting, but you live in a place that it's a Pluto line or a Neptune line, it will still affect you. They're powerful. It can even affect you if you're living with someone who is undergoing that kind of transit. So I recommend my book, Gambler's Dharma, actually has a whole chapter on these outer planets, and how when they were discovered, a lot of stuff related to those planets began to happen. When Uranus was discovered, revolutions broke out. When Pluto was discovered, as I mentioned, you had these very minuscule things creating massive effects. And when Neptune was discovered, you had oil, you had anesthesia, and so forth, and a lot of artistic development. So, but what I want to look at now is some of the things we can do about them. And I mean, this is why yoga was developed. This is why the Vedic system, the Vedic astrology, is linked to Vedanta. It's linked to karma yoga and so forth, because you have to have a foundational system of understanding of how suffering happens. And in the yoga system, it happens first through avidya, smita, then raga, dvesha, and abhinivesha. Avidya means simply ignorance, right? So in that example, oh, it's dark in here. How dare you say it's dark? The person who is reacting, who made the choice to react, is reacting because they don't have all the information. They don't have the information that I just came in and my eyes are still adjusting, right? And the reality is, none of us has all the information. None of us do. This is why we use astrology, because it gives us more information. You can use, you can use anything, right? You want to read studies. You don't just take a pill because someone on the street said, here, take this pill, you like it. No, you want to get more information. You want to become educated. Then you understand what the reality of your situation is a little bit better. So in the Indian systems of philosophy, understanding that ignorance is the cause, then that leads to a number of disciplines that are designed to help you become less reactive, help you create pause, to extend that split second so that you have pause and you have more control in that period between the reaction of, I'll kill you, Homer Simpson, why, you little, So you're not bound. That's a Pluto, I'd say probably a Pluto Sun person right there. Very Pluto Sun, probably Pluto Moon. He's got all of it. He's Pluto, probably not Pluto Mercury. He's not Pluto Mercury. Probably not Pluto Venus. Maybe Pluto Jupiter also. Yeah. A lot of these shows that are made often play on powerful archetypes, and whether they do it consciously or not. Like, for example, Friends. These are shows in the U.S. Friends, popular show. Cheers, um, Gilligan's Island, the old show. They all had the five Dharma types because each aspect of human consciousness has to be represented, because then you get the widest audience, and people see that as very real and valid. Anyway, little aside there, but so Pluto archetypes need to learn yoga. Yoga is self-restraint. Yoga is also yoga karma sukha ushalam. It is skillfulness in action. Well, how can you have skill? Through practice. So, and it's not just doing downward dogs. It's breathing practice. It's a meditation. It's the practice of not taking things personally. Boom. How'd you like that? Brought it right back to the point. Okay. Don't take things personally. It's not just about you. Try not to be offended. All right. So a good practice would be watching stuff that is maybe offensive, borderline offensive. Not obviously not like super offensive, but try doing that, like to stretch yourself. And other of the things that we recommend this was in our for a relationship class, but for any kind of outer planet influence, is ho'oponopono. This is the practice of saying, thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And you keep saying that, and you direct it. If it's someone that you have a lot of, usually it works best when there's someone you have a lot of reactivity to. Like some corporation did you wrong, or some person did you wrong. Like when you're having a Pluto moment, let's just coin this term, having a Pluto moment, do ho'oponopono. It's not guaranteed to work right away, but it'll help you create that little space, and it'll help you perhaps not take things personally. Okay, this is also a powerful prayer. Ho'oponopono. Plenty of videos about it on YouTube. You can check it out. Well, I think that's about it for today, guys. I don't want to bore you, but if you enjoyed this deep dive, let me know. Let me know if you have questions in the comments below. I'll try to answer. I try to look at all the comments. Just don't make me angry. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, just testing. Yes, I will try to. So if you have any ideas for future videos, or if you have questions about this, I will try to make another video then with Uranus and for Neptune as well. All right. So that's it for now. Thank you again. And we'll see you in the next one. Namaste, everyone. Hari Om.